Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Eagle's Rise. Khabib Nurmagomedov was born in the remote, rugged mountains of Dagestan, a place where strength and resilience were forged not in the comforts of the city, but in the unforgiving wilderness. From the time Khabib could walk, he was immersed in the discipline of wrestling. His father, Abdulmanap, a renowned coach in the region, recognized early on that his son had an innate ability to connect with the sport. What started as a humble tradition quickly morphed into a passion and then into an unrelenting obsession that would drive Khabib to greatness. It was clear that Khabib's path was one of hard work, but he didn't just train, he lived the discipline. The culture in Dagestan was harsh, a reflection of its unforgiving mountains and its people's will to survive. Wrestling was not just a sport, it was a way of life. As Khabib honed his skills, he spent every moment perfecting his craft, preparing himself for the day when he would step into the arena and represent not just his family, but his entire homeland. When Khabib first set foot in a combat sport cage, it was evident that he was destined for more than regional glory. His relentless pressure, suffocating grappling, and ferocity were unmatched. He became known for never taking a backward step, always moving forward and dictating the pace of every fight. And so, on November 6, 2010, Khabib Nurmagomedov would step into the Golden Fist Russia arena, determined to make another step toward his dream of becoming a world champion. Said Khalilov, the silent storm. On the other side of the cage stood said Khalilov, a fighter whose reputation was built on his precision and calculated approach. Said was no stranger to the harsh training methods of the Russian fight scene. Hailing from the capital city of Makhachev, Said had grown up witnessing some of the fiercest athletes in the world. Though not born into the same wrestling culture as Khabib, Said was known for his quick adaptability and sharp striking. He had earned respect from his peers through his technical fighting, often surprising his opponents with his creativity and ability to think under pressure. Where Khabib was known for his unrelenting grappling game, Said's striking game was his weapon of choice. He was not just an ordinary striker, he was an artist in the cage, blending technique with a brutal force that often left his opponents bewildered. Despite his precision, Said understood that every fight was a new battle, and he knew the stakes were high when he faced a rising star like Khabib. He was keenly aware of the challenge that awaited him on November 6, 2010. Said had worked tirelessly to get to this point, and now, with a chance to face Khabib in front of a live Russian audience, he knew that the fight would be more than just a competition. It was his chance to make his name known and rise to the elite level of Russian MMA. The Golden Fist Russia event was not only a spectacle of martial arts, but an event steeped in history and emotion. The fighters were not just battling for victory, they were battling for their legacy. The Golden Fist, Russia, the stage is set. The Golden Fist Russia event was unlike any other. The energy in the arena was electric. It was a mix of national pride, personal ambition, and the promise of glory. Fans from across the region packed into the venue, their voices echoing through the halls as they cheered for their heroes. In a country known for producing some of the best combat athletes in the world, the Golden Fist Russia event was a battleground for up-and-coming stars and seasoned warriors alike. Khabib and Said stood in the locker rooms, preparing for their fateful showdown. Both men knew what was at stake. For Khabib, it was another victory in his path to becoming one of the greatest fighters in history. and for said, it was a chance to take down a rising star and earn the respect of his peers. The tension was palpable as the crowd's excitement grew and the fighters knew that only one would leave the cage victorious. The clash of titans. As the bell rang, the crowd erupted in cheers. Khabib and said stepped into the center of the cage, their eyes locked in intense focus. The fighters circled each other, each one carefully gauging the other's movements. Khabib immediately began to press forward, his approach methodical, relentless. He wasn't just trying to win the fight. He was trying to break said mentally and physically, imposing his wrestling dominance on the match from the first moment. Said, on the other hand, kept his distance, waiting for the right opening to strike. His punches were sharp, but Khabib's defense was impenetrable, his movement precise as he closed the distance. As the first few minutes passed, it became clear that Khabib was the one dictating the pace of the fight. He would not allow said to settle into a rhythm. Every time said looked to land a strike, Khabib was there, closing the distance and securing control. Khabib clinched, set up against the cage, utilizing his superior wrestling technique to neutralize Khalilov's striking. He used every inch of his body to wear down his opponent, constantly shifting his weight and looking for an opening. Said struggled, trying to find space to maneuver, but Khabib was relentless, grinding him against the cage with an unyielding pressure that seemed to wear on Said's mental fortitude. The round was a clear display of Khabib's dominance. As the bell rang to signal the end of the first round, the audience was already buzzing with anticipation for what would come next. The breaking point. The second round began with both fighters determined to make their mark. Said knew he had to find a way to break Khabib's relentless pressure, and he started off the round by trying to land some clean strikes. But Khabib was unshaken. With each punch said through, Khabib moved with precision, always staying one step ahead. As the round wore on, Khabib's control over said grew stronger. Finally, after a sequence of grappling exchanges, Khabib managed to get said to the ground. It was at this moment that the fight truly began to slip away from said. Khabib's ground game was suffocating, his positioning flawless. Said tried to defend, but Khabib transitioned effortlessly, moving from one dominant position to another. The energy in the crowd shifted as they realized the fight was nearing its conclusion. Khabib's transition to the Kimura lock was a moment of brilliance. With lightning-fast precision, he trapped Said's arm and began applying the submission. The pain was immediate and intense, and Said had no choice but to tap out, signaling his defeat. The crowd exploded as Khabib stood victorious, his face expressionless, yet his eyes burning with the determination that had carried him to this point. He had done it again, another victory, another step closer to the greatness that awaited him. Aftermath, the path forward. As Khabib's hand was raised in victory, the crowd erupted into applause. Said Khalilov lay on the mat, defeated but not broken. He had been outmatched, but he was far from outclassed. He knew that in order to climb back to the top, he had to refine his technique and learn from the experience. For Khabib, the win was just another notch on his belt, but for Said, it was a humbling reminder that greatness was not easily achieved. Khabib's victory over Said Khalilov would go down as another chapter in the Russian's storied career. The Golden Fist Russia event was just a glimpse of the legacy Khabib was building, one that would ultimately lead him to the UFC and the world stage. But for now, the focus was on the present, on continuing to grow, to learn, and to keep pushing forward.